Hello, I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig. I'm a psychotherapist, author, and TV commentator. And don't go anywhere because Profiles is coming right up.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest is award-winning TV reporter, psychotherapist, and author Dr. Robi Ludwig. Her latest book is titled Your Best Age Is Now. It focuses on the trials and tribulations of midlife. In her book, Dr. Robi wrote, "Midlife is not the beginning of our decline, but rather it is actually a time to pursue our dreams." After a short break, I'll be back to welcome the personable Dr. Robi Ludwig to Profiles. Profiles is made possible by PEP Real Estate, led by Soho Johnny Pasquale. PEP Real Estate is a full-service management company specializing in the lower Manhattan and Brooklyn areas. Services include sales and leasing for commercial properties for long-term leases and short-term pop-up events of all sizes in New York City. On the web at peprealestate.com. Profiles is made possible by the Meridian at Boca Raton, an assisted living community located along Florida's Gold Coast. Their mission is to enrich the lives of those who call Meridian home by providing seniors with a carefree and active lifestyle, where residents have the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. The Meridian at Boca Raton, celebrating great lives. On the web at meridiansenior.com/Boca Raton. Profiles is made possible by Empire Outlets, New York City's outlet shopping destination, opened in 2019. Located steps from the Staten Island Ferry and minutes away from the Verrazano Bridge. Parking is available on site. The 350,000 square foot retail shopping destination features various brands, along with numerous eateries, all set with views of New York Harbor and Lower Manhattan. On the web at empireoutlets.nyc. Welcome back to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest, Dr. Robi Ludwig, is a renowned award-winning reporter and psychotherapist. A native of Chatham, New Jersey, Dr. Robi earned a doctorate in psychology from California Southern University. Soon after graduating, she ventured into television in Elmira, New York. Since then, Dr. Robi consistently appears as a guest expert on CNN, Fox News, The View, and Nightline, just to mention a few. So join me now as I welcome Dr. Robi Ludwig to Profiles. Dr. Robi Ludwig, thank you so much for joining us on Profiles today.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm looking forward to this.
Me too.
For our viewers, you're an award-winning TV reporter, a psychotherapist, and a prolific author.
Thank you.
My first question is, please explain to us exactly what a psychotherapist is and does.
Sure. So psychotherapy is talk therapy.
Oh, okay.
And it's based on the theory, Freud's theory, on the talking cure. That through talking, it really changes and alters the brain chemistry and how we experience ourselves. And it's a wonderful profession to be in.
Yeah.
It's just, you get to have a front seat into people's lives and really see just amazing changes that take place.
Right. Now, you're a native of Chatham, New Jersey, right over the bridge, right?
Yes.
And you earned your doctorate in psychology from California Southern University.
Yes.
Soon after graduating, you ventured into television in Elmira, New York.
I did.
Right? Was working in television always one of your primary goals, or did it happen by accident?
It did not happen by accident.
Okay.
It was something very deliberate, but my career is kind of interesting because I first wanted to be a therapist in second grade. I know that's early, but I already thought I was a therapist. Then I wanted to be an author in high school. Why? I don't know, because I didn't write very well then.
Yeah.
And I was actually very influenced by my uncle, Mr. G, who is a local legend in New York City.
He's been a weatherman in New York for about 40 years.
Yeah. And he was so talented, and just seeing the impact.
So he inspired you to go into television?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
he inspired me. I knew I didn't want to be a weather woman.
No.
That was not my thing.
You would have been good at it, but you wanted to be an expert in psychology.
I just loved everything psychological. It's
Sure.
how my brain worked. And I remember seeing Dr. Joyce Brothers on the
I
Today
remember
Show.
her well. Yeah.
Back
yeah.
in the day.
Sure.
And on talk shows, and I was like, I had an aha moment where I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to talk about psychology on television and anywhere I can. And it was very hard to figure out how to get into TV. It's not a clear-cut road, as you may know.
But you did.
Yes.
You did. And you've appeared frequently as a guest expert.
Yes.
CNN, I've seen you there many times. Fox News,
Yeah.
and even Nightline, just to mention a few.
Yeah.
And now you're on Profiles.
Yes.
And we're honored to have you here today. Now, you have a great new book out.
I do.
Name of the book?
Your Best Ages Now.
It sure is. And interestingly, I read that the book was a passion project for you and was based on your own experience and observation as a person in midlife yourself.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
And it all started with a job interview. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. It was a phone interview for some show that probably never took off.
Yeah.
And they were asking me about my age. I don't even know if that's allowed legally, but
But they did.
But they did.
And you were insulted.
I was never one to lie about my age. I was
yeah.
not insulted by the question.
Okay.
I was insulted by the reaction. And it was the first time that I really thought, oh my goodness, am I aged out of this
And
business?
how old were you at that time?
I was in my later 40s.
Okay, all right.
And
yeah.
I was like, this is not usually the way I think about age. And I had a pause moment where I really was thinking, what is midlife now?
Good point.
What does it mean to people? And fortunately, I live in New York City. So I was influenced by all of the beautiful women I would see
Yeah.
around me. And I was like, we really are talking about a different midlife.
Yeah, and I don't think your experience is that uncommon.
Right.
When you started doing your research for this book, I read what you found initially were a lot of books regarding midlife that were negative.
Yes.
Okay? And my question is regarding this. At one time, midlife used to be referred to as the prime of life.
Yes.
What happened to that?
It got rebranded somehow in not the most positive way. I remember
God.
when I was first considering this book, the title I was thinking about was Midlife Myths. And I really love that idea.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
And the publishing company said, if you mention midlife, it's like talking about dirty diapers. No one is going to want to identify with it or buy that book. Yeah. So things had really shifted. And if you looked at the landscape of books at that time, it was all about losses. Or self-deprecating jokes about your physical body or losing your mind. And I just thought we really need a book that is in sync with the current science out there.
Wow.
That is showing a very opposite or alternate picture of what midlife really looks like.
Right. Or the truth.
Or the truth.
One of the biggest fears that people have, when they start aging, is that they question, what is it about them that makes them relevant and significant. And I would assume part of the problem is still being in a youth-orientated culture.
Absolutely. I mean, we live in a culture that idealizes youth.
Yes.
And considers it the only place where good things can happen. And that's so faulty. I mean,
I agree.
Each phase of life has its own crisis,
Yep.
its own challenges. And if you ask women in midlife, and maybe men as well, they feel more confident
I agree.
in their own skin.
Sure.
You have wisdom, you have life history, you realize other people don't necessarily know better than you do. And it's a wonderful place to be, yet culturally, it's almost like a self-attack, right? That once people get to a place where they are feeling their stride emotionally, they're told, are you relevant? And some people buy into those scripts. I have not found that to be the case.
In your book regarding youth, so let's stick with that for a second. You said, in midlife, we are led to believe that the best is behind us.
Yes.
I thought that was a good quote. And then you went on to say, we are also led to believe culturally that youth is where all the possibilities lie.
Yes.
And when I read that, I said, it's almost like we're being brainwashed.
Yes, absolutely. And midlife is almost like a moving target when you think about it. We're living longer. So
Yes,
if we culturally are telling people they're irrelevant after 45, they have half their life to live.
Or more.
Or more.
Because with medicine's advances,
That's right.
sure.
That's right. So it's really not doing us any good as a culture to give up on a whole population that has so much to offer.
I agree.
And
I agree.
it's really, maybe there's a new career.
Sure.
Maybe
Reinvention, sure.
Or maybe people give into that career that they always wanted to do and they didn't know how to listen to themselves.
Right.
So that is the difference, though, between someone who's young, they look at their future as where all of the possibilities exist. There is a hopefulness. And in midlife, you almost have to look at your future and construct the hope. It's not automatically given to you anymore.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, as people age, as we all age, what they are concerned about, dementia, forgetfulness, they even have commercials now, whatever that is, right? Brain fog, etc. And I did want to mention I had Ernest Borgnine on Profiles when he was 94, and he was sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
And I asked him, Mr. Borgnine, what do you credit your sharpness to? And he said, I get up every morning and I do crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
Exercise for the mind.
That's exactly right.
It is right, isn't it?
It is right. Listen, certain people have genetic vulnerability to dementia or Alzheimer's, which they are working aggressively on fixing. But when I was studying, we focused on epigenetics, which is how lifestyle influences gene expression. So just because we have a genetic inclination doesn't mean it gets expressed. And they've done very fascinating twin studies where they find one twin looks very different than another because of how they treat themselves.
Right. You got to work it.
You got to work it. It's living well, keeping your mind passionate, engaging with friends, exercising.
Yeah, and you had mentioned just briefly that, technology is changing.
Yes.
Medicine is changing and getting better for the most part, right?
Yes.
And I think the people in midlife or beyond are the recipients of all of this.
Absolutely. Even if we look at women, right? They're able to freeze their eggs and have the possibility of being a parent close to 50 or beyond. And so our timeline is changing. We're no longer going through life all at the same time where you have kids at a certain age and then they go to college. Women really can pick and choose when they want to be a parent, if ever.
That's a great point.
And so when we look at medical science, it's just opening up possibilities for us all, but we really need to change this cultural limitation that we're no longer useful after a period of time, and really fight that with a bit of moxie, because the science doesn't show that. The science shows that we continue to learn, that the brain continues to grow new cells, it has neuroplasticity, which means we can continue to learn and grow, and we could get in a rut at any point in our lives. So it's a matter of saying, how can I keep my world fresh? What
yeah,
can I
yeah.
learn that's new?
Right. Does hanging or associating with younger people make you feel younger?
Yes,
It does.
it does.
So it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, and I think it's really useful. And I think there's something about being young, and part of staying relevant is having friends who are both older and younger.
Okay.
You know, there's something to be said about hearing what's new and fresh
Yeah,
and
yeah,
being
yeah.
open to
Yes.
that. And it's a healthy space to be, to have friends who are younger and older,
Oh, yeah.
and one's peer group, because there's a place for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone
really
has a
fun,
voice
yeah.
that's worth listening to.
Right. Now, agelessness.
Yes.
I got to mention that, in my opinion, started with the baby boomers,
Yeah.
who for the most part never accepted anything about getting older and continue to do so. You agree with that?
Absolutely agree. The baby boomers had a rebelliousness and a moxie.
And still do.
Just generationally.
I agree.
Where they were not going to accept ideas automatically. They were going to question ideas
Yeah.
and look at its relevance both personally and culturally. So I think there's something to be said about really questioning some of the information that we're fed on a regular basis.
That's a
You
good
mentioned
point.
brainwashing,
That's a good
and I
point.
think culturally we don't even really think about it. Older cultures
Yeah.
appreciate age in a different
Sure do.
way,
Sure
but
do.
America is still a young country, so we have almost like an adolescent perspective about youth.
That's a great point. In your book, you also said midlife doesn't have to be, and I like this one, an expiration date.
Yeah.
And there are thousands and thousands of examples to reinforce that fact.
Absolutely. And that's the problem that I found, that certain people gave themselves an internalized expiration date.
That's
And
true.
I wanted them to eliminate that expiration date.
That's
There is
important,
no
isn't it?
expiration date.
That's a good way of looking
We
at it.
continue
Yeah.
to learn and grow, and human beings falsely think they're finished products when they're not. As long as there's life, there's growth.
Yeah.
Even in terms of our personality development, there was a thinking, once you get past a certain point,
Yeah, yeah.
you don't really change, but we do. We become more conscientious.
Wow.
And we become more flexible, more inclined to see the glass as half full versus empty.
Right.
So there are a lot of advantages. There's a
I
shifting
agree.
of
I agree.
priorities. We can see some of the magazines changing in terms of pro-aging, or people talking about menopause in a different way,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
even for men losing testosterone. I think that we're trying to make a space for reality without stating that there's no place for people to age. Aging is beautiful. What other choice do we have? We want to maximize every moment.
Yeah.
And also, if you think about it, most people, regardless of what their age number is,
Yeah.
they feel the same inside.
That's
and I have a theory about that.
That's a very good point. And in the book you wrote about that.
Yes.
And you basically said that people that you were coming across in midlife didn't feel like they were in midlife. They didn't see that as themselves.
No.
That's
I still feel like I'm 27. Believe me, I know I'm not. I know I'm not when I bend down and I'm like, that hurts.
Well, and on the other hand, you certainly don't look like you're in midlife. So
Well,
you remain vibrant, relevant, and you look young.
Thank you. Part genetics and part just enjoying myself in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
What age do you feel inside?
30,
Yeah. So my theory is people
40.
People feel
You
the
know.
age
Yeah, yeah.
that they first felt adult and independent,
Yes.
and have a good association with that.
Yes. Well, the diet helps.
Yeah.
Even the mayor now has vegan Fridays, so
Yeah.
he's pushing health, eating healthy. Let's talk about regrets, because people in midlife experience a lot of those,
Yeah.
and it could hurt them. Such as, right? I didn't meet my goals. That's one. Is there still time left for me to achieve and accomplish my dreams?
Yeah.
And the last one is the regret on not having children when I was younger. Yet there are people in their 40s having children today. But that's a
Yeah.
regret for some.
Oh,
How do you
absolutely.
feel about some of the regrets?
Well, if we stay focused on regrets, it's like looking in the rearview mirror while driving forward.
Yep.
It's, you have to make peace with the things that haven't happened. There are always things, there are always the roads that we did not take. We cannot take every road.
No.
So it
No,
makes
that's right.
sense to learn from situations where we regret and to make space for new dreams. So if you're not a mother, maybe you take on a parenting role in some other way. You just have to be creative and seize the moments that come your way.
That's interesting. Dr. Robert, what do you like to do when you're not working?
Oh, gee, what do I like to do? I like to socialize.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I love my friends. I love going out and meeting new people. I like art and being exposed to art. I love city life, just whatever it offers.
Wow.
I used to say I love shopping, but after moving, after 30 years almost of living in one place, I realized I had all this stuff
Oh, forget it.
that seemed kind of meaningless. And I was like, what have I been doing all my life? Like, what is all this stuff about?
Stuff, yeah.
And you really realize you don't need as much.
Change. Right?
Change.
My next point, because in the book you talked about change. You said the one thing you can expect in midlife, which you just did, is change.
Yeah.
And one mistake people make is assuming that and this is what you said in the book, who we are at 20, they assume that that's who the person is going to be, same person at 40, 50, and even 60.
Yeah.
Not true.
Not true. I mean, I think that there's a core of sameness.
Yeah.
There's something about our soul, but
Yeah.
that we're always growing and evolving, and our values change and our
is true.
ideas change.
Most people that I know are in midlife, very resistant to change. And why do you think that is?
Because the unknown is unsettling.
It sure is.
And it's uncomfortable.
But
And it's hard to imagine that change will produce anything good or valuable,
That's
but yet
another
it
good
does.
point,
And
yeah.
so as we get older, what we want to do is cultivate an inner resiliency.
Oh,
So we can
Agreed.
manage some of the changes
yeah.
that will happen.
that's great advice. And now I'm going to talk about, you devoted a chapter in your book to finding love.
Yes,
And can I read what you said?
sure.
This is from your book. You said, younger women are looking for a knight in shining armor. Their expectations are too high and too unrealistic. Then you went on to say, women my age have a better sense about what a real relationship looks like and what it takes to make it work. I
Well,
love
it's
that.
so wonderful to see, and I've worked with women at
Yeah.
all ages.
Yes.
And I joke, I had this patient, she was never married, she had a lot of difficulties, was very negativistic, and she'd be like, I'm hopeless about finding romance. And I'm like, you can be hopeless and still look. She ended up finding someone who so appreciated her and living this amazing life, traveling all over the world. I'm like, now she's living better than I am. But there also is a
Yeah.
misconception about love. People can love again. People can find the love of their lives at any point along their timeline. So I think it's really important to know that. And also when you're young, you're idealistic about everything. And in some ways that can interfere with the success of a relationship because we're holding up our partner to such unrealistic expectations, they're bound to fail. And so women in midlife understand I'm a person that's flawed, and the person I'm with is a person who's flawed. And let's focus on what we can do together and how we can support each other, which is a better basis for a stronger, more loving relationship.
And how to make it work. Years from now, when you reflect back on all that you've done in television and with your practice here in New York, what do you hope your legacy will be?
Oh gosh, the first thing that comes to mind is that I was a good mother. It was something I was never obsessed with being. I just thought, I guess at some point I'll do it. And yet I'm so proud of my children and I enjoy who they are.
And how many children do you
I
have?
have 2 children. My son is 22 and my daughter is 19, and I love who they are. I think they're good people who will add to the world in a significant way, and I do feel good about that. I guess that my legacy, that I tried everything I could.
I want to say one more time, Dr. Robi Ludwig, thank you so much for stopping by Profiles today. The book is great. I really enjoyed it, and it's called Your Best Age Is Now, and it certainly is. Continued success with all that you do.
Thank you, Mickey.
And my pleasure. Recently, when Dr. Robi was being interviewed for a new position on television, the first question the interviewer asked her was, "How old are you?" Not only did Dr. Robi find that question inappropriate, it also inspired her to write her latest book, Your Best Age Is Now. Dr. Robi went on to say, once people hit midlife, they're surprised that they feel so young and so relevant. And a lot of the things they've been told about midlife don't fit who they are. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Mickey Burns. Thanks for tuning in.